Well, Tamyra, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I could be better. How are you?
Folks, she's recovering from COVID right now, so we're very grateful that she's trooper and hopped on the podcast. Doing well today. First off, what is like the last? Has it been 6 weeks or 4 weeks since the Olympics?
Honestly, I think now it has officially been 4 weeks.
Tell us about your life post-Olympic champion. Has it just been a whirlwind?
Yes and no. It's been a lot more conversating and a little bit more travel, but at the same time, not really, because the wrestling life, you travel a lot, so that's something that I've been used to. But I have gotten to be able to travel with my husband a lot more, so that's been a super duper bonus.
And he's a wrestler as well, right?
Yes, he wrestles for 9.5 years, and he's also struggling with COVID.
Stay strong out there, guys.
Yeah.
So walk us through like the next, you win the Olympic gold medal. Like, what are you doing the next couple of days? I mean, is it just like a lot of Zoom interviews with folks? I mean, what is it like, in the days following that?
You win the Olympics, and because of the way the structure was actually at this Tokyo Olympics, the next day I was cheering on the rest of my teammates, and the day after that, and the day after that. Didn't really get to do any interviews because NBC had exclusive rights on all that. So didn't really get to do much outside of what NBC provided, which was still cool because it was like almost like a media tour for like about 6 hours after I had won, and that was really fun. But other than that, it was just a lot of like, go Team USA.
It was so fun to watch from the living rooms here, and it was just one of the most epic Olympics I can remember. So for you to be there in person, I mean, just being a fan is one thing, and obviously accomplishing a lifelong goal had to be, I can't even imagine how big it was. Now that you're back, are you still planning on wrestling at the World Championships?
Definitely.
Love it.
Definitely. Oh yeah. Like, why not? Why not? Right? Like, it's literally like 3 months after the Olympics, and it's another tournament that I get to put under my my belt. So why not do it? Challenge myself.
Peak form, dominating, just rolling through everyone. Let's keep it going. So I was looking back at your background. I understand you got started in wrestling in high school, Katy, Texas. I think a lot of people are familiar with that name. But other than that, don't know a lot about your early journey. How did your sister kind of walk you through your initial phases into the sport?
So initially I was in track and field, and when she had joined the wrestling team, they had asked the females to go out there and recruit some athletes, and she had recruited me, and I didn't want to be in it. Didn't appreciate it whatsoever. Like, you guys see how wrestling is. Imagine to a track girl who wore hoops, makeup, got her hair done every single day for track and field. It was almost detestable to me. But she told me to hang in there for about a month until our first dual meet, and I ended up winning against a state qualifier, and shoot, the rest is history.
That was your first dual meet, coming in against the state qualifier.
2 weight classes up too.
Jeez. Now, and wrestling in Texas isn't historically thought to be a powerhouse state, so to speak. But obviously that's changed over the last 20 years. So what was like the wrestling culture like at the Texas State tournament? Were the girls competing with the guys at the same time, or how did that work?
Yeah, so sorry. We the men and women were competing against each other, not against each other, but competing with each other side by side. We have it honestly is just like world championships. We had men's matches and women's matches. And we were able to be side by side next to our classmates and teammates all the time. And that was awesome because we were like the biggest cheerleaders. And Morton Ranch was, in my honest opinion, at that time, one of the most all-time family-oriented wrestling teams I had ever encountered in my entire career, which was a super short career because I just started that year. But just from what I had seen in at other schools, like when other schools, like their camaraderie, it was there. But Morton Ranch was by far the most family oriented team I had ever seen. Like the parents were involved as well as the kids, and it was freaking incredible. So just imagine being on the mat and you have senior parents, freshman parents alike, just cheering you on, giving you nicknames, and just being a part of the team. And it was freaking incredible. I loved it.
Wow. I mean, the culture was that strong, like compared to even what you see now.
Yes, it was that strong. Like I can't even describe it to you, Ryan. It was awesome. I know one of my coaches who's no longer there at Morton Ranch, he had left for a head coach spot, and he wanted to actually come back to Morton Ranch because there's nothing like Morton Ranch's camaraderie. Like it can't be matched. And like even now, like what I think 12 years later, like I can still feel it, and people still
Wow.
contact me to this day from that team, just telling me how proud they are, like parents and athletes alike. And it's great. It's
Have you gone back to the old high school yet?
not yet.
What? They're
I
gonna
know.
welcome you with just a festival.
There is a plan for something like that. Me and my twin are actually going to be being put in the Hall of Fame, and they're going to be announcing it at I think it's like the homecoming game or something. I don't know. There's a lot going down when I get to Texas. I'll just say that.
Get her back to the Lone Star State. What are we doing, folks? We got a Olympic champion here. We're gonna go crazy for you down there. I can't believe you haven't been back yet. We gotta get on that.
I know.
So
I
how
know.
did you end up at Wayland Baptist then? Because you were dominant in high school. You were state champ, 2-time state champ. What was that journey like?
Um, it was almost kind of a blur. Like I didn't really understand how good I was, and I just go out there and just be me. Like my coaches would tell me to actually slow down, like slow the match down because I get off the mat too quickly, and they have to tell me to take down the person and then cut them. And I'd look at them and go, "Are you freaking kidding me? You want me to cut these people? I want to dominate them." They're like, "No, we got to build your cardio up. Cut them after you." So that was kind of like my experience, except for like the girls that were pretty difficult. Like Katy High School was by far one of our toughest opponents, and they'd never tell me to cut her. They'd just be like, freaking go out there and like pulverize her as best you can, like go out there and take her. But my wrestling career in high school was a lot of takedown cut, dominate where you can, and take down cut where you could. But a lot of it was just really fun. And man, I had a blast in high school. I can't wait to go back and just, man, say hi to everybody. Be in those small hallways again.
That's going to be awesome. I can't wait to just see coverage of it. People are going to be so excited.
Yeah.
So given your high school success, did you ever consider like going out of the state for college to like King College or King's College? Is it like any of like some of the more traditional power programs in women's wrestling?
I did. I thought about it, but they didn't really want my twin until she had proved herself to them, because at the time she wasn't a state champ and I was. And Wayland Baptist were more than willing, where Coach Cobb was. He was like, "We'll take the both of you." Like, absolutely. And then she became a state champion, and they were like, "We already said we take the both of you." So that's we of course considered going out of state, but at the same time, Texas is like home,
Yeah.
and we didn't want to go any further than we had to. And there was a few bonuses at Wayland, being in Texas, being close to a specific guy that I super had a crush on, because high school mentality, boys are in your head, right? And
I hear you played the long game with that one, right? Staked it out over multiple years.
I did. I definitely did. I'm a chill, kind of patient person. I'll wait to get mine. But yeah, it was just a lot of factors, and that was one of them. And yeah, I mean, you've met Coach Cobb. That
Oh my
guy is great.
God.
Like, he's great.
He's crazy. So before we get to Coach Cobb, I got to know, did you and your sister win state the same year, like the first year she won it, or were you already out of high school at that time?
Oh no, we're twins.
So twins, that's right. So same year. Yeah.
Yeah. So
That had to
I
be a
won
pretty epic moment, right?
it. Oh my gosh, how do I describe it? So I won it the year before, and the year that she was in the finals, I was in the finals, and we were back to back weight classes. I was 128, or I think she was either 138 and I was 148. I think that's what it was. And I had to go up right after her. And when I tell you, Ryan, I had more nerves for her than for me. I was freaking out. Like, if there was footage of, oh my gosh, it was just incredible. I was just screaming at her, get him! Get him! She was like crawling back to the center, just extremely tired. That girl's a comeback kid, like no other. And when she won, I was like, yeah, that's right. Now let me go do the work. And I went over there and I did my work, and I was like, yes, dual state champions. We did it. It was awesome.
So they let you watch her match, because some coaches are like, you can't watch because it's too up and down.
No, I was right there. I was pacing back and forth, going, "Ooh, Tamyra, you gotta stay focused. Oh no, she needs you." It was yeah, it was definitely intense. It was intense, making me sweat right now. It was awesome.
And so how did she do the year before?
She didn't get to wrestle. She was injured for almost 2.5 years.
Oh, wow. So man, that's pretty special then. Like, the first time she gets to come back, you win it together.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. She didn't have a lot of experience under her belt when she went to state championships, but she had way more heart than I ever did. And she loved wrestling more than I did. So it was only a matter of time. When I tell you it was a comeback story, it 100% was. She got injured in a wrestling match, and she said, it doesn't matter. I'm going to come back and I'm going to win it. And she became our second state champion ever at our school.
Wow.
It was awesome.
That's amazing. What kind of injury was it?
She blew out her knee and she got nerve damage. So she ended up getting foot drop. And so she's not able to lift her toes at all. Her foot is numb.
And she wrestled?
And she wrestled. She tore her ACL, her MCL, like so many ligaments got stretched out, not torn, but stretched out. It was bad. It was extremely. They told her that she wasn't going to be able to wrestle. And she was like, cool story, bro.
She gets it done. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So when was the first time the great Johnny Cobb entered your life? Phone call? Like, how did it go down? Like, did he recruit you guys up there?
It was, I honestly don't remember when the first conversation was with Johnny Cobb, but I do remember our first face-to-face conversation. It was at state championships, and I don't exactly remember like how the conversation went, but he said, "You want to go to the Olympics?" And I said, "Yep, absolutely, sir. I've got a heart of gold." And he was like, "Really? You got a heart of gold, huh?" Okay, a lot of people say that. And I was like, "Nope, I want to go to the Olympics."
You knew it then?
Yeah, I knew it then. I knew it 2 years before.
No, what?
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
Just a natural ability I felt God had given me from wrestling. I was in track and field, so I already knew I was athletic, but
Mhm.
I didn't really go to state like I did in wrestling. And wrestling, it was like natural. Like, are you kidding me? Like, it was like I was born for it. So
Wow.
that year I had talked to one of my teammates and field and track and field and track and field, and I had said we should go to the Olympics together. Her in shot put and discus, and me in the Olympics. And that was the very first year that I had started wrestling. So
Did you
we
keep
kind of
doing
knew.
track? So sorry to interrupt. Did you keep doing track and field after?
I did. That was rough.
You did.
I did. I finally quit halfway into senior year. I was just like, I can't do both these sports. But for I think for 2.5 years, I did both sports, and it was rough, but I just felt really drawn to it because I'm a pretty loyal person,
Yeah.
and it was really hard to quit because Coach Hayes, she was cool. She
I'm
was cool.
sure she understands now though, looking back. I mean, that's pretty cool to have all those people in your story kind of leading up to this Olympic journey that we all just witnessed.
Yeah.
Tell us
Yeah.
about the impact Coach Cobb made on your life once you got to college.
He was almost like Coach Dad. Yeah, he pretty much not let me do what I want, but if I wanted hot fries after a tournament, he'd be like, let her have the hot fries. He just be Coach Dad. He I don't even know how to describe him. Like he would always make sure that we behaved ourselves, but at the same time, because he knew who he had recruited, he didn't really have to keep tight reins on us.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, we pretty much were free to do what we want because me personally, I feel like we were responsible enough to take care of ourselves. But he's an old guy that is extremely strong, and so when he would show us moves in practice, gosh, it'd be like, get off of me, Coach Cobb. Jeez, you're so strong. Stop. Show it on somebody else. Like he's just a really proactive and interactive person to have in a wrestling room. And he has a lot of energy too. Like he does cartwheels he did cartwheels and backflips. He's a little older now. But even back then, when he was like, 60 years old, that's still freaking incredible. But he just has a lot of energy about him and so much charisma. And he is somebody that like brightens up the room. His accent just throws you off. You're like, is there an accent there? I don't really. I grew up in Texas and I don't sound like that. I don't understand. But yeah, he's just a loving person and a loving personality, and he just invites you into his home. And yeah, his wife is also Miss Beverly. She's incredible, and his daughters, like they're freaking phenomenal. Like I just felt like he's just such a warming person. He just invites you into his life and who he is. And he's retired like 4 times too. He just can't really get away from wrestling. It's funny. He's like, I'm retiring. And then you see him coaching again. You're like, what? He's like, I can stay away. Wrestling just got a hold on me, which it does. It has a hold on all of us. You try to get away, but if you love it a lot, find some way to bring you back. But yeah, Coach Cobb's freaking amazing, and I am so happy I went to school and got to be coached underneath him. He's great.
He's unbelievable. Like you said, passion. I mean, spunkiness, fire. I mean, one of the most memorable interviews I've ever done, and it was actually in person with him at Amarillo. And I think Amarillo has a strong accent. Everyone there, it was really thick. And man, all love to my friends in Amarillo, but it was, of all places I've been, like, man, it is strong there. And Coach Cobb, he was just featured in a documentary we did on Brandon Slay, and everyone, not everyone, but people would call him and they're like, who was that high school coach? The crazy, exciting guy. I'm like, that's Johnny Cobb. They loved him. So he's popular amongst the podcast listeners. And I just think it's cool. Well, he's coached 2 Olympic champs. How many people can say that?
Oh man, not a lot of people. Coach Cobb, when he sees it, he sees it. That's freaking incredible. I know he's super cool.
I mean, and as far as I've gotten back into the sport since like 2018, you've been dominating. This year at the Olympic trials, you step up in the finals against a teenager. What did you know about Kennedy Blades before that series got underway?
That last time I saw her, she was 12. So it was kind of a shocker, first of all, to see how tall she was, and second of all, to not freaking underestimate her, because I went in there going, she's still 12, and then going, holy freaking crow. There's a reason why she made it to the finals. Yikes. Get your head on right.
What kind of feel does she bring?
It's almost like a folk style feeling, and I hadn't felt that in a really, really, really long time. Like, I think, 9 years to be exact. So it was kind of a new feeling. Well, not a new feeling, but a feeling I hadn't felt in a long time, and it was great. I loved feeling it. It made it so exciting because it was a feeling that I hadn't felt, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is different. Let's keep going. Let's wrestle. So it was great. But other than that, like, I didn't know much like what she had to offer leading up to the match. That's not really my style. I don't really focus on the person. I pretty much make the adjustments during the match, and I made the adjustments during the match.
Yeah, it's interesting you say folk style, because she as young as she is, she's been wrestling a lot of girls only freestyle, but coming up, she wrestled folk style with the boys in middle school. And the Illinois middle school circuit is nasty. And she was the first girl ever to win. And so she's been a name people have been hearing about for a while, but then at the trials, you see her Tech Fall Force Molinari, an elite competitor. And you're like, what are we witnessing here? And then you handled the series, no doubt, but it was just fascinating to see you at the peak of your prime and this young rising star. It was just such an interesting contrast.
Yeah, it was awesome. And it was fun to, just witness like her going through everybody in 68 kilograms. It was definitely exciting. And I didn't really focus too much on it, but when I heard about like who she would beat, I just go, what? Ooh, man, that match. I'm like, had I saw some of the matches, I would have been more prepared, but it was still super fun, and I wouldn't have had it any other way. And I'm excited for her. Like, she just won Junior Worlds. Like, well, a lot of them did. Good Lord,
right? There's pennant people over there.
Yeah, I'm like, the future is bright. I say so myself. Yeah, it's incredible. So I'm excited for all of them. It's gonna be freaking awesome.
It's such an awesome time for USA Wrestling. There's just momentum everywhere. Like the cadet, the junior, the Olympics was just electric. And I mean, what can you say? It's wrestling's the best, right? I mean, we love it for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. Not to tell the whole world. Gotta get it out there.
That's right. So now, when did you move to the training center in Colorado?
So at first, me and my husband had moved to the training center before the Olympic trials in 2016. He told me that I needed to, if I wanted to make that 2016 team, I couldn't stay at Wayland. I needed to go train at the Olympic Training Center. So we first made that move then, and then we had decided together to go back to Wayland to finish college. And so
after 2016?
After 2016. So we stayed there for a year, trained, and then went back to Wayland, and then came back to Colorado, I believe in 2017, like 2018. You know how school years are like 2016 and 2017.
Yeah.
So it's hard to figure that out, but
I know what you mean. Yeah. I still measure my years as if like everything's starting in the fall. I'm like, I haven't been in school for 10 years,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Gosh. I'm slowly trying to figure it out. I was like, no, the year does not start in August. Oh, gosh, get it right.
I know it's always like in like wrestling season context in my mind, how
Yes,
it's starting. So
yeah.
going back to the first stint, what was the transition like living at the OTC? I've asked a lot of people that question, and sometimes it's a culture shock to be there. Sometimes it's awesome. Like, what was your experience moving out there full time?
I cried like the first week or so after practice.
Why
It
is
was
that?
rough because I had to wrestle against Randy Miller, Elena Periscova, Aaron Claudio, um, Adeline Gray, I think Iris Smith as well. I was just wrestling literally like the number one women
Mm.
of that time every single day. And Adeline came up to me one day after practice and she was like, what are you doing? Like, I'm trying to be the best. She's like, yeah, but you keep wrestling with the number ones. Like, go wrestle with like number twos and number threes and number fours. Like get a fill out for everyone. You don't just have to keep torturing yourself and wrestling with the number one girls. And I'm like, but I want to be the best. She's like, I know, but just chill out for a little bit. Like, build your self-esteem up. I'm like, okay, thanks, Adeline. So that's what that was like. It was rough. It was really rough. And after that, I started wrestling with number twos and number threes, started getting better, and I was right back at it wrestling number ones. I didn't
How,
stay away long.
how long after that? Like a couple of weeks, you were feeling good?
Probably a week or so after, not even a couple. Like
Wow.
it was soon. I was like, because I feel like I bounced back pretty darn quick. And actually, Elena Periscova would use me a lot at practice, like a whole lot. So it was cool. It was cool that she saw that potential in me and that she utilized me a lot. And the same with Randy Miller. Like both of them just took me under the wing, and Adeline too. They just all get kind of like took me under their wing and like gave me advice here and there to help me out along the way, and it was super cool. And I'm so happy I get to do that for other people. Like people are going to be saying my name once they would be like, Tamyra took me under her wing. She made me dance with her one time.
So true. I mean, think about that though. Like, you won this year. It's 2021. You've been out there on the grind since 2015, and obviously way before that even, but really in earnest in 2015. That's a long journey to get there. And, so in 2016, heading into the trials, were you favored to win that tournament?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Okay. I mean, I'm sure in your mind, you weren't looking at it that way, but like in terms of like a fan's perspective, was it an upset for you to win, or was it fairly expected?
I think it might have been an upset. I'm not really sure because Randy Miller was in that weight class. And who else? Brittany Roberts was also in that weight class, and like she was one of the dominants as well, but she ended up beating Randy Miller. And honestly, I don't know, because Elena Periscova was at the weight class below me
Okay.
that year. I don't know. Sorry. I'm so sorry.
Just curious. And because I looked at the finals and it looks like you controlled the score in the finals, and you won the trials. Everyone knows that you didn't get to wrestle in 2016. I'm sure it was a life-changing event. How did you process that and kind of like get back on the horse after 2016?
Oh man, that's a good question. I think it was a lot to do with my faith because I don't even freaking know how I bounced back. There was a lot of anger and regret back then. A lot of sleepless nights of me going, why? Why did that? Why? But somehow I managed. Terry Steiner, he gave me some really good advice a few years later. But I honestly don't know how I processed it. Like even now, like it haunts me today. And keep bringing it up, but I think I have since made amends with myself. But
I only asked to shed advice to the youngsters listening who are trying to maybe get over something, big in their life and how did one of our champions do it? Because everyone's been there.
So what I would have to say is I relied heavily on my faith and my family, and I made sure that I knew that wrestling was not who I was. So yeah, I got defeated, but that's not who I am. So I had to make sure I could bounce back. And look, I'm a Christian woman before I'm a wrestler. So you are not just a wrestler. Like, I still had to go to school. I still had to do my homework. The world still moved. I still had to keep on keeping on. So there was definitely a lot of, what do I do now? You keep working, you keep trying, you just keep doing. So honestly, I think that's how I just managed, because it was rough. Like, imagine being that close away from your dream. Like, everybody's experienced it, but you're stronger than you know you are. And I felt like I was never gonna like come out of that. And then a few months later, I'm like, oh, I never want to feel this again. And then I felt it again. Didn't learn after that. It took me a few times to pick myself back up again and keep on trying. So like, it's not gonna happen like that. So keep moving forward, you guys. And for me, it's relying on faith and family. For everybody else, it could be different. Like, I don't know. Some people like running. Run your little heart out, but not too much.
I love the detaching the identity from just being a wrestler only, though. That's got to be big.
Oh, it's super huge for me, because I am not just a wrestler. I haven't been a wrestler my whole life. There's some people who've been doing it since they were 2, 3 years old. Not me. I started when I was 15, and so I just learned to detach myself from wrestling, though I know that wrestling has given me so much of who I am. Like, yeah, I found my husband in it. Well, I lost my father and my best friend in it. Like, most of my friends came from wrestling. Most of what I do in my life has to do with wrestling, but at the same time, if wrestling was taken away from me tomorrow, I know who I would be. And that's like super important to me, to be someone outside of this sport, because I know a lot of people, once they get to where I'm at today, like, yay, an Olympic champion, what's next after that?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going, no. It is not lonely at the top. I know exactly what I want to do after this. This is not who I am. This is just a part of me. So that's something that I definitely want to like just get the message out for people is, yeah, like wrestling can get you, it is a means to an end. It will get you where you need to be, but it's not who you are. So I'm like, just
thank you for sharing that. That's amazing. Amazing. And when you were referring to that, it was a multi-year journey, in 2017, got to the world championships, I think maybe a 7th or a 9th, 2018 bronze, 2019 world champ. Wow. I mean, and wrestler of the year. That had to be obviously up to that time, the biggest tournament of your life. But I mean, how does that compare and kind of looking back on that to the Olympics?
Oh man. Looking back at that just makes me smile. Like, it was so awesome. I felt like I was way more emotional when I won the world championships than when I won the Olympics. Like, world championships, it took me like 45 minutes to compose myself. It was rough. Like, I couldn't do any interviews. I was heaving and huffing. They were like, "Ooh, give her some time." She got snot coming out of her nose. But for the Olympics, I was like, oh my gosh, yay! Cried a little. But I honestly felt like it was because of maybe like the lack of people. I was able to compose myself a little bit better, because at World Championships, there were so many people there.
Oh,
so
yeah.
many. And at the Olympics, there wasn't that many. And like, I guess like the crowd didn't really like hit me like it did at World Championships. Don't get me wrong, the Olympics, I would do that 1,000 more times before I did World Championships. But
wow.
I guess that's how I would compare it. And I'm honestly glad, like, because I remember my mom had also said, Tamyra, your interviews, you got to learn to compose yourself, baby. Like, you look at you, like that was pretty rough. And so this year, I felt like I did my mom a favor, did her a solid. I composed myself that much faster. So
That speech went viral. I guess speech, yeah, went viral. That was amazing to see. Everywhere you looked, that thing was everywhere.
I know that was ridiculous. I did not plan that. I don't I didn't understand why that happened, but, I was truly grateful that so many people were, so refreshed and, loved hearing my message. 'Cause I'm just trying to spread a lot of love and joy their way, so that was cool.
No, it was, and it came through. Yeah, outside of the 2016, the Worlds, and then the Olympics that I wanted to ask you about. The other thing I wanted to just get your thoughts on, you were the Euregan Queen, 3 Euregan titles, most by an American. I don't know if that's male or female or just in general, but 3 Euregan titles is absurd. What is it like? What is your experience when you go over there now? Are you a star amongst the Russian people? I mean, are they starting to recognize you?
So I haven't been back there in a minute, but the first year that I went, I was a star amongst them. I think just because of my complexion in general. They just wanted pictures, and I didn't even win yet. And the second and third year, it was pretty much the same. So it was it was it was the same.
Yeah.
It was pretty much the same. They're just like, oh my goodness, it's a dark complected woman. Ah, take a picture with me. But yeah.
Have you won it 3 times?
I've won it 3 times. I was the first American to ever do it, and
First American.
I think, one of the men did it, like, a few matches later. It was, like, from I can't remember. I think it was Cal Snyder, but I'm not sure. I don't wanna say.
Okay.
But, yeah, I was the first, and then one of them that did it. But, yeah, that was super fun.
Pretty
I
amazing.
love going to Russia. It's great.
I mean, what a list of accomplishments, and what just an amazing career you've had, and inspiration for so many. I just want to thank you for coming on the podcast. Something we ask a lot of the listener, or a lot of the guests is, how did wrestling change your life? You're still in the thick of it, but like, how would you say wrestling has impacted or changed your life thus
It's
far?
given me I honestly can say wrestling's changed my life because it's given me a voice that I didn't think that I had, and now I can share it with the world. I love it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tamyra. We really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Ryan.
That's the end of this episode of Wrestling Changed My Life. Thank you so much for tuning in. To see video clips from this interview, go to Instagram at Wrestling Changed My Life. As always, Wrestling Changed My Life is proudly presented by Spartan Combat. Please go to SpartanCombat.com to support this show.